Sarah Ferguson has shattered the royal family's carefully maintained silence with a revelation that has sent shockwaves through Buckingham Palace. In a stunning disclosure, the Duchess of York claimed that a secret agreement exists between Meghan Markle and Prince Andrew, an arrangement she says threatens to further damage what remains of the monarchy's credibility. November 2025 may now be remembered as the moment Sarah finally broke her silence. Long known as the royal who knew too much but spoke too little, she appeared unexpectedly before cameras just minutes ago, catching even her closest advisors off guard. Choosing a modest Mayfair townhouse rather than a royal residence, Sarah made it clear this was not a sanctioned or approved appearance. It was a deliberate, personal decision by a woman hardened by years of scandal who had decided she would stay silent no longer. What she revealed was explosive. A shadowy pact allegedly forged between two of the most controversial figures in modern royal history. According to Sarah, despite appearing worlds apart, Meghan Markle and Prince Andrew have been quietly connected for far longer than anyone suspected, bound by a secret agreement made behind closed doors. The alleged agreement, according to Sarah Ferguson, emerged in the aftermath of Prince Andrew's catastrophic Newsnight interview in November 2019, an appearance meant to clear his name over his association with Jeffrey Epstein, but which instead became a public relations disaster that forced him to step back from royal duties. What the public never knew, and what the palace worked tirelessly to conceal, Sarah claims, was that Meghan Markle reached out to Andrew in the weeks following the interview. Her revelation paints a calculated and unsettling picture. Meghan, she says, saw opportunity in Andrew's downfall, a man isolated, desperate, and in need of allies, but also someone in possession of invaluable insider knowledge, royal secrets, and a willingness to break ranks with an institution that had cast him aside. The arrangement was simple on the surface, yet devastating in its implications. Meghan would offer Andrew public sympathy, strategically placed media support, and access to her expanding network of celebrity allies and media contacts, while Andrew would provide information details about palace operations, insights into family dynamics, and potential ammunition to be used when the timing was right. Sarah's voice reportedly trembled as she described uncovering encrypted messages, overhearing phone calls that didn't quite add up, and noticing Andrew's demeanor shift whenever Meghan's name was mentioned. For months, she convinced herself she was imagining things, unable to believe any real connection could exist between her ex-husband and the woman who married into the family only to depart so dramatically. But the evidence, she said, became impossible to ignore. She described a meeting in early 2020, just weeks before Meghan and Prince Harry announced their decision to step back from royal duties, claiming Andrew traveled to Canada under the guise of a private retreat, when in reality it was a face-to-face meeting with Meghan at a secluded Vancouver Island estate. While the full details of that meeting remain unclear, Sarah says Andrew's behavior afterward made its significance obvious. The agreement was being finalized, preparations were underway, and both sides were bracing for what would become one of the most turbulent periods in modern royal history. The timing of Sarah's revelation, she insists, is no coincidence. It comes amid renewed scrutiny of both Andrew and Meghan, his repeated attempts at public rehabilitation faltering under media skepticism, and her relationship with the royal family remaining deeply fractured despite occasional rumors of reconciliation. Sarah suggested she felt compelled to speak now, consequences be damned, not only for the sake of truth but to protect her daughters, Beatrice and Eugenie, from being drawn into what she described as a game that had gone too far. She alluded to threats without revealing their nature or source, making it clear her decision was neither impulsive nor easy. The palace response was swift and predictable, dismissing her claims as categorically false within minutes. Yet those familiar with Sarah Ferguson's long turbulent history inside the royal family are not so quick to dismiss her words, seeing in them the voice of a woman who has been publicly humiliated, privately tested, and repeatedly proven far more resilient than she is often given credit for. When pressed, Sarah Ferguson was said to be surprisingly candid, describing a pact forged in scandal. To understand how this secret agreement allegedly came into existence, she traced events back to November 2019 and Prince Andrew's disastrous BBC Newsnight interview with Emily Maitlis. Intended as a moment of redemption, the interview instead became a textbook example of crisis mismanagement, his lack of visible remorse, the infamous Pizza Express and Woking alibi, and his claim that he could not sweat due to an adrenaline surge during the Falklands War combined to create a public relations catastrophe of historic scale. Within days, Andrew was forced to step back from public duties, sponsors abandoned his charitable work, and institutions rushed to distance themselves from him, effectively turning him into a royal exile within his own family. The Queen stood by him as a mother might, but even her support could not shield him from the relentless criticism and ridicule that followed. At the same time, Sarah says, Meghan Markle was facing her own struggles battling the British press, feeling isolated within the royal family, and quietly planning her exit from royal duties. Yet, according to Sarah, Meghan was also strategic and acutely aware of how power operates within institutions. She claims Meghan recognized something crucial about Andrew's predicament. Desperation makes a man useful. The initial contact, Sarah alleges, came through intermediaries, with Meghan's team reaching out to those close to Andrew, offering sympathy and subtle validation. The messages framed him as unfairly treated, highlighted double standards within the palace, and suggested a shared understanding of being scapegoated by an institution more concerned with protecting its image than pursuing truth or justice. Humiliated and angry, Andrew was receptive. Here was someone who appeared to understand his position, who neither lectured nor shunned him. That she was married to his nephew and increasingly alienated from the family herself only strengthened the bond, creating what felt like a shared enemy. By early 2020, Sarah claims, the relationship had shifted from expressions of sympathy to active coordination. She described uncovering signs of regular communication between Andrew's phone and unfamiliar numbers later. Traced back to Meghan's team, conversations that, she says, were no longer personal but strategic in nature. They allegedly exchanged details about palace vulnerabilities, internal family tensions, and coordinated public statements designed to deliver maximum impact with minimal accountability. The Vancouver meeting Sarah referenced was, she claims, the culmination of months of careful planning. Andrew's trip was arranged with extraordinary discretion, private transportation, stays at properties owned by mutual acquaintances, and a meeting location chosen specifically for its isolation and security. What was discussed during those hours together has fueled intense speculation, but according to Sarah's sources, several key issues were addressed. First was mutual protection. Both Andrew and Meghan were under fierce media scrutiny and felt betrayed by the institution they had served, leading to an understanding that they would publicly defend one another when advantageous, engage in strategic leaks to sympathetic journalists, coordinate social media narratives, and apply behind-the-scenes pressure on media outlets to soften coverage. Second was information sharing. Andrew brought decades of insider knowledge about palace operations, its secrets, pressure points, and structural vulnerabilities, while Meghan contributed her own insights into the family's current dynamics and access to a global media network Andrew lacked. This exchange benefited both sides but also created a dangerous balance of power, with each holding potential leverage over the other should the relationship sour. Third, and perhaps most unsettling, was discussion of future coordination. Sarah claims they talked through hypothetical scenarios, potential crises to exploit, and moments when the palace might be particularly exposed. These conversations, she says, were not merely reactive but forward-looking, focused on contingencies that had yet to unfold. The agreement was never formally written down, both were far too careful for that, but Sarah insists it existed all the same. An unspoken understanding between two figures who felt wronged and were determined, in their own ways, to even the score. They believed they were leveling the playing field, never anticipating that someone was watching, taking notes, and would eventually decide the game had gone too far. Sarah Ferguson's long silence becomes more understandable in that context. Still technically tied to the royal family and reliant on its goodwill for her lifestyle and her daughter's positions, speaking out would have meant risking everything. Yet remaining silent also meant watching Andrew sink deeper, forming alliances destined to end badly and witnessing the institution she once belonged to fracture from within. Sarah suggested the breaking point came recently. While she declined to give specifics, she indicated that the arrangement between Andrew and Meghan had evolved into something far more dangerous than either intended. Plans were being made, actions coordinated, and she realized silence was no longer an option, especially if she hoped to protect her daughters from being caught in the inevitable fallout. Understanding Meghan Markle's motivations requires revisiting her position in late 2019 and early 2020. She entered the royal family amid enormous optimism and global support, only to find herself increasingly isolated and under sustained attack from a tabloid press whose ferocity shocked even seasoned royal observers. Her relationships with senior royals, particularly William and Catherine, had deteriorated, and while Harry was supportive, he seemed unable to fully shield her from institutional pressures. Meghan, however, has always been strategic, honed by a Hollywood career, social navigation, and a clear grasp of power dynamics and media influence. Sarah's account suggests the decision to reach out to Andrew was not impulsive but calculated, driven by a clear-eyed assessment of what Meghan needed and who could provide it. What she required most at that moment was leverage. As she and Harry planned their exit from senior royal duties, they needed insurance information that could protect them if the palace retaliated, and allies, however unlikely, who understood the institution from the inside. Andrew, scandal-ridden as he was, possessed exactly that. The brilliance of Meghan's approach, Sarah claims, lay in its subtlety. She made no demands and issued no threats, offering instead sympathy and understanding at a time when Andrew felt abandoned. She positioned herself as a fellow scapegoat, someone who understood public humiliation and institutional betrayal. Beneath that empathy, however, was calculation. Every conversation became an opportunity to gather information, every show of support a way to deepen trust. Sarah suggests Meghan's information gathering was systematic questions about palace protocols, decision-making, who truly held power, and where the institution was most vulnerable. Angry and isolated, Andrew shared far more than he should have. The intelligence Meghan accumulated served multiple purposes: defensive insurance against potential retaliation, strategic guidance for shaping media narratives, and, according to Sarah, reserves held back for future use if circumstances demanded. The Vancouver meeting marked a turning point, shifting the relationship from information gathering to active coordination. By early 2020, Meghan and Harry were finalizing plans to step back from royal duties, and the next phase of events was already being set in motion. The announcement of Meghan and Harry's decision to step back from royal duties in January shocked the world and infuriated the palace. But Sarah Ferguson claims Meghan knew the hardest challenge wouldn't be the announcement itself, it would be managing the fallout and safeguarding their position in the months and years that followed. Andrew's role, according to Sarah, was critical. He allegedly agreed to act as a back-channel source, monitoring family conversations, court gossip, and institutional reactions, and relaying key information to Meghan's team. In return, Meghan would use her media influence to seed positive stories about Andrew or counter particularly damaging coverage. The arrangement carried enormous risks. If exposed, it would confirm critics' suspicions of disloyalty and manipulation, and could give the palace grounds to sever ties completely. Yet both Andrew and Meghan reportedly believed the benefits outweighed the danger, confident in their ability to avoid detection, though they underestimated Sarah Ferguson's resolve to protect her daughters and reveal the truth when pushed too far. What makes Meghan's alleged involvement particularly striking is how it contrasts with her public image. She portrayed herself as a woman seeking only to serve the institution and the Commonwealth, forced out by racism and institutional cruelty, wanting a quiet life with her family away from royal pressures. Yet the existence of a secret agreement with Andrew, calculated, covert, and maintained through careful deception, paints a far more strategic and complex picture. This does not negate the real difficulties and prejudice she may have faced, but it complicates the narrative, suggesting her departure was not solely about peace and privacy. It also involves securing leverage, maintaining influence, and ensuring she could not be marginalized or controlled by an institution she had come to distrust. For Buckingham Palace, Sarah Ferguson's revelation represents a crisis of unprecedented complexity. It is not merely the story of two controversial figures forming an alliance, but of the potentially profound implications that alliance holds for the institution itself. The implications for the monarchy's credibility, security, and future are profound, and palace officials are reportedly engaged in damage control efforts so extensive they resemble military operations. Yet this crisis may already be beyond their ability to contain. The most immediate concern is information security. If Prince Andrew has indeed been sharing insider knowledge with Meghan Markle over an extended period, the question becomes what, exactly, has been compromised. Palace protocols exist to safeguard privacy, protect institutional integrity, and preserve the carefully managed public image that underpins the monarchy's relevance. A breach of those safeguards, especially if sensitive information flowed to someone beyond the palace's control, would be staggering. Even after stepping back from public duties, Andrew still attended family gatherings, maintained relationships with senior courtiers, and received briefings on certain matters, granting him insight into succession planning, financial arrangements, health issues, internal relationships, and strategic decisions. In the wrong hands, or at the wrong moment, such information could be weaponized. What alarms palace officials most is Meghan's potential use of any such intelligence. She has demonstrated a sophisticated grasp of media strategy and public relations, along with access to influential journalists, powerful figures in the entertainment industry, and global platforms. Possession of detailed insider knowledge about palace operations, family tensions, or institutional vulnerabilities could allow her to shape narratives, apply pressure, or defend herself with precision. The second concern is precedent. If this alleged agreement becomes confirmed and undeniable, it would establish a dangerous template showing that even scandal-plagued royals can retain influence through external alliances, rendering traditional palace tools like isolation and public disapproval less effective in an age of global media and celebrity power. Future family members at odds with the institution might follow the same path, seeking their own leverage and insurance against palace authority, fundamentally undermining the monarchy's ability to maintain discipline and unified messaging, an existential threat for an institution dependent on public perception. The third concern is how the public will respond. With approval ratings already volatile, the revelation of a covert pact between two of the family's most controversial figures could spark fresh skepticism and outrage, raising questions about transparency, ethics, and what else might be happening behind closed doors. While the palace has predictably dismissed Sarah Ferguson's claims as false, behind the scenes it is reportedly deploying more nuanced strategies, briefing sympathetic journalists, exploring legal options, and exerting pressure on anyone who might possess information about the alleged agreement. The aim is to contain the fallout, discredit the claims, and steer the narrative before it takes hold. But the palace faces a formidable adversary. Sarah Ferguson has survived decades of scandal, understands the media landscape intimately, maintains trusted journalistic relationships, and most critically appears to possess evidence, including encrypted messages, that could make dismissal far more difficult. Sarah Ferguson has reportedly cited phone records, sources she has cultivated, and other evidence that, if even partially verified, could dismantle the palace's denial strategy. Adding to the complexity is Prince Harry. His already strained relationships with his father and brother could be further complicated by the revelation of a secret agreement between his wife and his uncle. Did Harry know of the arrangement? Was he complicit, or is he, like the rest of the family, learning about it now through Sarah's disclosure? Answers to these questions will heavily influence how the family navigates the fallout. King Charles faces an especially delicate position, balancing loyalty to his brother and son while safeguarding the monarchy's reputation and managing his personal relationships, all under intense public scrutiny during a period when his reign is still being evaluated. Legal implications also loom. If Andrew shared confidential information without authorization, has he violated laws or agreements? If Meghan used such information to influence media coverage or public perception, are there grounds for legal action? Palace lawyers are likely exploring these questions, though any proceedings would carry their own risks and complications. What makes the situation particularly nightmarish for the palace is its unpredictability. Sarah's revelation was sudden, her evidence base unknown, and her willingness to go public despite potential consequences indicates a level of determination that is difficult to counter. The possibility that Andrew or Meghan might respond publicly, either confirming or denying the allegations, adds further volatility. The fallout is already visible. Social media erupted within hours of Sarah's statement, royal commentators scrambled to analyze the implications, and news organizations began investigating her claims. Emergency meetings were convened behind palace walls to assess damage and plan responses. Sources close to Andrew and Meghan suggest the alleged agreement may already be unraveling under pressure and scrutiny. Trust, already fragile in a relationship built on mutual self-interest rather than genuine affection, appears to be eroding. Andrew's immediate response was notably restrained. Rather than issuing a full denial, he retreated into silence. His lawyers released a statement calling Sarah's allegations misleading and taken out of context, but avoided outright denial, signaling awareness that a complete denial might be provably false. Meghan's team has been more aggressive, describing the claims as fantasy, attention-seeking, and fabricated. Yet observers note that her denials target specific characterizations rather than the existence of any contact with Andrew. Neither side fully denies communication or coordination, leaving room to acknowledge interaction while framing it as innocent or misrepresented. The nuance in their responses suggests both are aware that some evidence of their relationship likely exists and could surface. Sarah herself has remained highly visible since the initial revelation, a strategic move designed to keep the story alive and maintain pressure on both Andrew and Meghan. Through carefully controlled follow-up interviews, she has revealed additional details while withholding what she describes as the most damaging information for potential future disclosures, ensuring that the narrative continues to unfold on her terms. Sarah Ferguson's methodical drip-feed of information continues to keep the media engaged, making it difficult for the palace to declare the matter closed. The evidence she claims to possess remains the critical unknown: encrypted messages, phone records, and witness accounts, none of which have been made public. This strategic withholding suggests she may be negotiating behind the scenes or preparing for a more comprehensive disclosure, keeping everyone involved on edge. Meanwhile, internal tensions within the royal family have intensified. Reports indicate that King Charles summoned Andrew for a heated, unresolved conversation shortly after Sarah's revelation, demanding answers while Andrew reportedly deflected and minimized, leaving their relationship further strained. Prince Harry's situation is equally complicated. If Meghan entered into an agreement with Andrew without his knowledge, it represents a serious breach of trust within their marriage. If he was aware, His credibility and claims about seeking privacy and distance from royal drama are severely undermined. The impact on Beatrice and Eugenie, Andrew's daughters, has also been profound. Both have worked to establish themselves as respected members of the royal family despite their father's controversies. And Sarah's disclosure threatens to drag them back into public scrutiny. Sources suggest they are furious with their mother for going public without warning them, creating new family tensions that may take years to heal. Public opinion remains divided. Some hail Sarah as a courageous truth-teller exposing palace deception, while others view her as a bitter ex-wife seeking attention or revenge. Many are simply exhausted by royal drama, wishing the family would resolve matters privately. This situation represents a turning point for the monarchy. Traditional rules of royal discretion and family loyalty are breaking down, and the assumption that scandals can be contained through silence and institutional authority no longer holds. The realization that family members might act against the institution from within has fostered a new atmosphere of suspicion and vulnerability. In the coming weeks, further developments are likely. Andrew may opt for limited disclosure over outright denial, Meghan may acknowledge contact while downplaying its significance, and Sarah may release additional evidence if her credibility is challenged. Regardless of how the immediate crisis unfolds, the damage to the royal family's cohesion and credibility is likely to be lasting. The carefully cultivated image of unity and shared purpose has been shattered, and the revelation that estranged or disgraced members may work against institutional interests has created a deep-seated paranoia and distrust. Sarah Ferguson's explosive disclosure has reopened wounds the family sought to keep hidden, and the alleged secret agreement between Meghan Markle and Prince Andrew represents more than just a scandal. It signals a fundamental breakdown in trust and loyalty within the House of Windsor. As the fallout continues, one thing is increasingly clear: the monarchy will never be the same.